Hey guys, today's project is going to be a favorite that I used to make when I was a kid. They are can critters. This guy is made out of a can. I'm going to show you how to make it into a little creature, and you can store things inside. Got some art supplies in there. So let's get started. To start, you'll need a can. Make sure there's no sharp edges along the way and that it's been washed out. Then you'll need paper. I didn't have any construction paper, so I used a paper grocery bag. I cut it open and laid it out flat. You don't have to use the same kind of paper or can that I did. You could use a smaller can or a tall skinny one like a Pringles can. Now to measure this paper, I'm rolling my can and seeing how long I need the paper to be. So I'm looking at where the end of the paper is and marking it. Then I'm going to open it and mark how tall the can is by making a line with my pencil. You can continue to use the can to mark, or you could do like I did and use a ruler to measure how tall the can was and make a few marks so that you can connect those marks and cut the line out. If you don't have any paper that's big enough for the can you have, it's also okay to use 2 pieces of paper and just piece it together as you go. And while I'm cutting this out, I just wanted to say you can make your can critter a totally different animal than I made. You don't have to make a bird. You could make totally different colors, use different sizes of materials. You make it unique and make it your own. Now that my paper's cut out, I'm using glue to attach it. Honestly, it's probably a little easier to attach it with tape, but I couldn't find my tape. I think my daughter was using it at the time, but this glue ended up working just fine. You don't have to worry about having glue on every single spot of the paper. Just enough glue to get it to stick should work. I think you probably need a little more glue on the 2 ends of the paper. Just run your fingers along and make sure that everything is sticking together. Now we're ready to make the top. You'll need to make a circle out of the paper that's a little bigger than your can. Normally you'd use a compass, which looks like this and has one side with a pencil and the other side pivots, but I don't have one of those. So here's a couple other ways to do it. First, you can take something round like a bowl or this pie plate, as long as it's bigger than your can, and simply trace around the edge of it. Another way to make a circle is to use a ruler with holes in it, like this one. You're going to use one of the holes as an anchor point, which I'm doing with this paintbrush, and then another one for your pencil tip. And you just go around and round until you draw the whole circle. The last method I'm going to show you for making a circle is with string. Cut a piece of string and tie it around your pencil. You want your string to be long enough to go halfway across your circle. Tie a knot, trim the string, get a push pin, put it in the knot, just like that. Put the push pin in the middle of your circle and draw around. You'll have to make sure you keep the string tight or the circle won't work out. No matter which way you use to make your circle, now you're ready to cut it out. Mark a spot in the middle of your circle and draw a line. You're going to cut that line, and then you're going to overlap those 2 pieces. You see how that opens? As you overlap it, you're going to be making a cone. The more you overlap your pieces of the circle, the tighter and taller the cone will be. So I'm using my can to see how big I need my cone to be at its base. Continue to adjust your cone until it's just the right size for the top of your can. When you've got it the right size, you want to keep it that way. You can use glue like I did, or probably a piece of tape would be easier to fix it into place. So if you are using glue like me, here's how I did it, just a little at a time. Now my cone is ready to be added on top of my can. To do that, I'm going to line up the 2 seams, so that's kind of like in the back. I'm going to use some tape to make sort of a hinge. Put the tape going from the top to the bottom, and I actually put another piece on the inside later on when I realized it was getting a little too floppy. Test out how your can creature can open and shut. Once you're satisfied, you're ready to add all the decorations. Since I decided to make mine a bird, I wanted to make a beak, so I'm using some white paper. I didn't have any construction paper like I mentioned, so I'm just coloring some white paper with colored pencils to get the colors I need. Once I cut these triangles out, I'm going to fold them in half and form them into a beak. But you could do different things for different animals. You could make a trunk for an elephant or a nose for a dog. Just remember that where the can opens is where the mouth opens. So that's why you'll notice when I put this together, I put the top beak on the top part of the can creature and the bottom beak on the can itself. And here I used glue to put these things on, but you might find that tape is easier. Just use what is easier for you and what you have available. It might also help to have tabs on your paper, and I do this with the bottom part of my beak. You'll see in just a moment. That just gives you more surface area on which to put the glue so that the paper has something to stick to. If gluing things on is too difficult, you can always just draw right onto the paper. You can draw onto the cone or draw onto the can and use markers or something like that to add some colors. Now here's where I'm working on the bottom beak. I cut a small snip, I fold the paper, I trim off any parts of the paper that I don't want to show, and I have a place to put glue that once I fold the paper back into its beak shape, part of the paper is facing the can, so it can just press right on. And if I hold it there for a second with my fingers, the glue will really make it stay, and the beak will be just how I want it. Now he's got a bottom beak. Next I'm going to make the eyes. And if you don't want to draw the eyes on, you can cut them out like this. I folded the paper in half, and I did that so when I cut out this oval and the paper is folded in half, I'm really cutting out two ovals that are exactly the same size and shape. So it's easy to make my eyes even. Now you could just draw the pupils on, but I decided to color a little piece of dark paper. If I had black paper, I would have used that. Again, I just folded it in half, cut a little circle or an oval out of the black section, and now I have two identical little black pieces of paper that I can glue onto the eyes. You'll notice when I glue these on that I reach inside the cone and press my hand underneath and on top. That's so it really glues on well. So his eyes are nice and straight in how I want them, and his little face is showing. Now I'm ready to add some of the extra details. Here I'm going to do some feet. I folded the paper in half again and drew a little foot. I'm cutting it out, and again because it was folded in half, I'm getting 2 feet in one cut, and they'll be exactly the same size and shape. Now I'm going to color them so that they match his beak. And I'm even adding little toenails and details on his toes. At first I tried to glue his feet on, but I found they didn't stick to the can very well, so taping them on was really a better choice. So I just flipped the can upside down and taped them on so that when I flip it back, the tops of his feet with the color are showing. To add some feathers, I'm going to fold this piece of paper over so that I'm cutting 3 feathers out at once. I only have to draw 1 feather, and then when I cut it out, I'll have 3 exactly the same size and shape. I think I'm going to put these on his head, but you could also use them for a tail or just details wherever you want them. Because these are going on his head, both sides will be visible, so I did color both sides of these feathers. To attach them, I used a piece of Scotch tape, put it across all 3 feathers, and found the right spot on his head to attach them. So he's kind of got a little hairdo of feathers sticking up. Next I made a tail, which I chose to make in all one piece, but I drew the different colors of feathers on it. Now there's different ways to attach things like tails and feet. You could have it sticking up or sticking out, and I decided I wanted mine to be kind of laying flat and sticking straight out, and I used tape to attach it. I think the only other thing I want to add are wings. Now you could cut these out separately, but I decided just to draw them on. I made them similar to the tail, where I just drew the different colors of feathers on there. And it is a little easier to color when it's not on the can, but I managed to do it. The shape I'm using for the wing is kind of a teardrop shape, and that's a nice simple shape if you are doing something with wings. Well, I think my can critter is just about done. I like how my bird's turning out, and he's a great place to store my art materials. I hope you guys have a great time creating your own can critters, and get creative. See what you can make out of cans.